Da, 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 da. Welcome to Off Topic. We are immediately, I haven't even gotten the welcome out yet. Welcome to Off Topic.
It looks so gross, but that's fine.
It's not a beauty contest.
It's not.
Um,
Anyway.
so tonight we're going to talk about if you have a kid with ADHD and they are defiant, confrontational, standard discipline doesn't work. um, what the heck can you do? Because it's frustrating. I know it was very frustrating when you guys did not do a single thing that I asked. Not all the time, but in the beginning, yes. And there's a couple of things that I didn't do, which I found out I needed to do. And then once I found those out, I was able to kind of add more things on it. The biggest thing was having clear rules and consequences. Like that was my hardest thing. I could never come up with a consequence for they would do something and I couldn't think of a consequence to fit it. So, and then I'm thinking of all the parent books saying you have to do it right then. You can't like say when we come home you have to do this. It has to be like right then and there. And
I don't know about that. I think it depends. But I think one of the funniest things that I remember is that you would like take our phone away and then forget you took our phone away, and so we'd be like, "Can I have my phone?" And you'd be like, "Yeah," and then just give it back.
That was kind of a pushover as well. um, yeah, so that was the thing, and so I like in my head I had rules of what I should be making sure my kids did and didn't do, and those were influenced by society, by everyone around me. I had no rules myself, like whatever, just the ones that you hear about, like
Yeah.
no hitting, no biting, don't do this, um, and no consequences. And the thing I struggled with was like, how do I come up with consequences because they're not going to work for every situation.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, if they do something bad, and the consequence will be X, and or have like X, Y, and Z are my three consequences for when something doesn't happen or bad behavior or whatever. And they never seemed to fit, or they were too harsh. Like my husband used to like threaten me, you're never gonna see your nana again. Like that's not gonna happen, right?
I didn't know he did that.
Yes, he said that, and then threatened to throw all your stuff
Oh
away
yeah,
and
that one
stuff.
I
That was
remember. He'd go as far as to like put them in trash bags and be like, "I'm throwing this all out."
yeah.
And then
So
he'd
there was
put
a
it in
lot
the
of
basement and lock it, and I'd just sit out there and cry
yeah,
until Mom was like, "Stop it! I'm annoyed. I have to deal with this kid crying the whole
yeah.
time. Please."
It was quite traumatic.
Yeah.
Um,
Don't do that.
don't. I did one time take every single thing out of your playroom because you weren't putting anything back, and you didn't care. You
No.
found a battery and you started playing with the battery, and I was like,
That's the
"What
hard part with
the
ADHD is that you
hell?"
just entertain yourself no matter what. Like
And
you can put me in an empty room and I'd find shit to
but this
do.
was at the time when I didn't realize that ADHD was partly lacking. You have lagging skills. So for me to say pick up your toys, and expect you, I think you were like 3 or 4, probably 4, to do that was unrealistic.
Yeah.
But I was going on the fact that I knew 4-year-olds that would do that. Um, there were people that had their 5-year-olds going upstairs and they would take a shower by themselves, and I was like, what? My kid won't even go upstairs by themselves. So how is that going to happen? So that is that is kind of what was happening and the reason that everything was really um, chaotic. And then like I'm looking at some of these things. I printed out a thing about rules, whatever, and ask yourself if you're contributing. And I totally was. I totally contributed to the chaos
Mhm.
by the way I reacted, by the things um, I was doing, and so uh, those are part of the reasons why nothing was changing, nothing
Yeah.
was happening. Um, so as I began to learn more about it, then I started to realize that I'm gonna push you this way a little bit so I can get in the frame,
Oh yeah,
seeing
I'm
as
like
it's
in the
mine
way.
alive. So that was the big thing. I don't know how much you remember from the first 11 years of your life and the drama that that ensued.
Very like vague random things.
Yeah, I think you just like you get so used to being yelled at and told you're doing something wrong or whatever that you just kind of stuff it all down, I guess.
Yeah, and like I mean with like dad it eventually got to the point where I just tuned him out when he started lecturing me because it didn't affect me. Like lecturing doesn't work. You're just talking at me and it's overwhelming. So
Yeah.
I tune it out because it's overwhelming. Um
Yeah. And then that's when, as you get older, you're just like I can't even talk to you, so I'm just not going to talk to you.
yeah, but then you I'd get yelled at for not talking
Yeah.
because then I'm ignoring people.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
So
okay, well, what? You don't listen when I talk, so what am I supposed to do? Like, I
so
don't want to be talking to a brick wall the whole time, so
or
I'm
just
just.
you can't talk because you're being talked over or yelled
Mm-hmm.
at or whatever,
It's like
which we did a lot.
what I have to say is clearly not important, so I'm just not gonna say it. Um, and then eventually I got to the point where I was like, well, I'm just gonna yell, cause like that's what you do, and you get your point across, and you get listened to, so I'm just gonna yell. But since I'm the kid, that has negative effects, and you
Yeah,
get
because
yelled at.
it was seen as disrespectful.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I tell parents like the thing you should be working on consistently and the most is knowing helping your kid with emotional regulation because that's one of the
Mm-hmm.
things that are weak. And my kids would, I never baby talk to my kids anyways, but I would say feelings, um, and they kind of got the idea that there was more than just uh, three feelings.
Mm-hmm.
So it was easier for them um, to express.
Yeah, I like to think that I have pretty good emotional intelligence on like what I'm feeling, but sometimes and like I was taught from a young age that sometimes there's emotions that you feel that you can't put into words cuz it's a mix of multiple, but being able to recognize which multiple emotions you're feeling can kind of better explain what you're feeling.
Yeah, or and so being able to recognize that, or being able to come to someone and say, "This is how I think I'm feeling," and I don't actually know why. Um, and then a lot of times, I can just ask some questions and we can narrow it down. And other
Mhm.
times, I mean, ADHD is such a weird thing. The other time, there's times where you just feel completely sad and drained and
Mhm.
every emotion, and you can't put your finger on the one thing that
Yeah.
was is causing it. Um, so it doesn't always have a cause, but
Yeah.
one of the things is figuring out the cause of whatever's happening. So if your kid is having a difficult time or a meltdown or whatever, it may be coming out as a certain behavior.
I mean, I feel like most like lashing out things have a cause. Like if a kid's acting out, most of the time it is for a reason.
Right, but
Like
I'm
I
saying
know
like
I never like I would never lash out at DJ if it wasn't caused by something. You know what I mean? Like I would like let's say we're fighting, whatever, and then I get overstimulated because we're fighting. That's the cause of the lash out. Like that's when I'm like I hit or I get angry or something like
right,
that.
but I'm saying that
But
parents
like
look at the surface and
yeah,
think like you're hitting, you're biting, and that's the problem, not
yeah.
the fact that you're overstimulating,
Mhm.
and I don't recognize that, and
Mhm.
I can't um, provide the proper support
Yeah.
because I'm just thinking you're being a little pissant, hitting your sibling.
No,
So
cuz it's like especially now it's like if I ever like yell or snap at my sibling, it's not their fault 90% of the time because it's cuz something else is going on and they're just in the line of my
yeah,
fire
and
where I'm
and
just
every adult does this, so we shouldn't be shocked that children do it.
right.
First of all, because we're role models, and secondly, because they're humans, right? They're just smaller and haven't been on the earth
Yeah.
longer. But um, you can have a really crappy day, and you come home and the kitchen's a mess, and you have to make dinner, and you're all like whatever, and the first person that comes into your line of sight is going to get your
Yeah.
wrath. You're going to be like, I can't even come home to a clean kitchen, blah, 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 blah. But that's not the real thing. That's the straw kind of thing that broke the camel's back.
Yeah.
Like you had all this stuff that happened. I used to get mad a lot at my kids, and I wasn't really mad at them. I was mad at somebody else or a husband or just mad at myself or whatever.
Mhm.
And rather than deal with it, I push it
But
out.
yeah, but the other thing is like how you handle your emotions is how your kid's gonna try and handle theirs,
Yeah.
even if it doesn't end up working for them. Cause like mom would always go like if she was starting to get really angry with us and start like yelling, she would go in her room and close the door and lock it. And so it's like now if I get overwhelmed or something, I'm just like I'm very much in my room a lot now as I'm older because I realize like just being upstairs all the time is so overstimulating
Mm-hmm.
because it's like dad has the TV at full blast
Yeah, or the
or like he's
music or something.
banging around or there's music or
Yes.
something's happening and I just need my space where I'm safe where I can like process my emotions and my feelings. And that's why it's like it's really funny because it's like dad asked me when we went to see the Sonic movie,
Mm-hmm.
he was like, "Why? Well, the movie theater's loud, but so why is it different at our house if I have the TV loud?" Because the house is small. There's not much place for the sound to
Yeah.
go, so it's way louder when you're in the house with other things happening. When you're in a movie theater, it's loud, but there's space for the sound to travel
Right.
and there's people to buffer the sound,
Yeah.
and most of the time, everyone's silent. They're all just watching the movie.
Right. So there's no other thing. So like,
But it's like we could be watching a movie and someone's in the kitchen doing the dishes and it's really loud. Or
we're watching a show and Dante's rolling up the chip bag or
yeah, it's just
getting
like
ice or whatever or
it's just like it's a lot. So it's like that's why my space is my space. And as much as I like to spend family time, I need it to be something where it's like we're playing a board game. We're all doing the same activity and if it's loud, it's not that big a deal because we're all actively doing the same thing.
mm-hmm.
But if we're watching a show, anyone could be doing anything while watching the show. So,
And that's the problem when you watch shows in your home because you're so there's so many things that can distract you. So
mhm.
like 9 times out of 10, dad will just start having a conversation. Like, remember what movie we were watching a movie and we just started watching the movie and I was getting into it and then dad just started having a conversation with like you and Casey and just like I
Mhm.
don't remember what we were watching, but I
I
was
don't
just
know.
like, what? Or we're
And
watching.
like I'm all for like talking about the movie that's happening. Like I love talking about what we're watching, but that's when I've seen the movie a bunch of times. If it's a new movie, I kind of don't try not to do that as much and I'm
Yeah,
not great at not talking during movies. But the thing is like if everyone else is also talking, I don't feel as bad about it.
yeah.
Um but it's like sometimes I just want to sit there and be quiet.
yeah. So, oh, excuse me. Ooh, sorry. Um, so that's one of the things that we had to kind of understand. So knowing knowing your kid's little quirks and uniqueness, and they, have uh, pretty much patterns. You can pretty much
Yeah.
know that, like, we have a co-op with a bunch of neurotypical teens, and we talk about, like, hey, what if we do this, and then we're like, well, my kid probably couldn't do that. That would be
Mhm.
too much and too overstimulating. And the other person would be like, no, that's completely fine. It doesn't matter. My kid will be fine with that. So, um,
Yeah.
but it takes knowing your kid, and is that comes from um,
Paying attention.
paying attention,
Also, conversation helps a lot.
conversations, making sure, starting with the positive, starting with, instead of going right into what they did wrong, um, you can kind of be like, you know what, I'm really proud that you did this and this and this.
Mhm.
Um, Look at that. The more you focus on the positive and less on the negative starts to go away. But also, punishing kids for things they have no control over, because of the
Sucks.
ADHD. And so, and honestly, like, I used to say to the pediatrician, like, how do I tell if it's just this age or the
ADHD.
ADHD, right? Because, little kids can look like they have
Yeah,
ADHD.
and then they don't.
So it was doing that. And even the same thing, how do I know that this is a teen or tween behavior because they're in this age group, or something more, or something to do with their ADHD? So that's another thing. And the thing that I constantly tell parents is, spending quality time with your kid. Like, I know we are all like, I'm with my kid 24/7. Like, how much
Mhm.
more time do I have? But actually doing things that they want to do, that are interest to them.
Like dad plays Mario Kart with us
Right.
sometimes. It's not often, but like I think we've gotten to a point in our lives where quality time is less frequent, but when it happens, it's more meaningful
Hmm.
because we're so busy all the time. And like that's again like that's one of the things that I've been struggling with lately is I feel really guilty for always being in my space, but I realize that I'm older and I'm going out and I'm doing school and that's taking all the energy. So when I get
Yeah.
home, I just want to be in my space and not be overwhelmed by everything happening. And
Yeah.
that's why I think I spend less time upstairs now. Is because I'm
But
I'm
that's
overwhelmed throughout the entire day and I just need to
right.
come home and
And that's fine,
decompress.
because so I'm talking, you know, I used to spend a lot of time with you guys,
Oh yeah.
because I was with you all the time, but I always made sure I spent individual time.
Yeah.
So, like, at night, I would
For
read
you
DJ a book, and we would talk and whatever.
yeah.
And then,
For a while we did I was like, "Hey, I feel like I'm kind of like being left behind." And so you would have like little debriefs with me at night and that was really nice. But now I just come home and I tell you everything anyway.
right.
So it's
But I don't
like,
know if you would still do that if we hadn't built that up.
yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because,
No,
um,
and it's the same with dad where it's like some of my favorite things were when he would come in my room and read me a book.
mhm,
And like it didn't happen often because he would travel all the time, but he started like doing that for me. Like I remember we read pretty much the entire Junie B. Jones series together,
yeah,
and it's like that was just great. Or I'd hand him a book and be like, "Can you read to me?" Even if I was like older
yeah,
and I didn't need to be read to because I could read by myself. But it's like it's just nice to have someone do it for you sometimes.
right. And so I think that's part of it. The better connection and understanding you have of your child, um, is what's going to end up building the relationship, so that you can then um, be able to discipline without it being, you know, the punishment kind of thing
Mm-hmm.
where you take things away
I
and
also, one of my things that I'm very strongly for is like natural consequences. Like, because if like break something on purpose, like I smash a plate or something, and you take my phone away, how does that correlate?
right.
Like, I should be the one to like clean up the glass that I've broken or something like that. If I'm using all the Wi-Fi, then you can take my phone away because that's a natural consequence.
And that was
Um,
one of the things when
yeah,
you were staying up till like 3 in the morning talking to friends. It's like, yeah, that's not good. That's a correlation with
yeah,
the phone.
yes, but it's like if it's really like make the consequence make sense for the action that you've done because once you're an adult, no one's going to take your phone away because you punched your coworker. They're going to fire you from your job and you're going to have to deal with that. Like it's just it needs to make sense and I think especially when you have ADHD because it prepares you more for what people expect and especially with behavioral issues how your behavior affects other people
Mm-hmm.
because I think it's so easy as a kid and especially to have ADHD to not realize that your behavior makes an impact on other people when you
Right.
do something this happens like yes when I pull my sister's hair or something she cries but it's like that doesn't affect me right
Right. And there's a disconnect with kids. And so, like parents are like, well, you pulled I'm going to pull your hair, whatever.
yeah
But it's more of understanding as they get older,
but
understanding that
then
the
yeah
world doesn't revolve
and
around
then
them, and
it's
they start to
like
learn that.
and then it's like explaining to kid well this is why they cry like it hurts and then they might not want to talk to you anymore because you're making them upset and hurting their feelings and that's really a like wake up call to be like oh if I say something like this or if I do something like this people are going to react like this
But I will say that none of these conversations that I've had with my kids were in the heat of the moment, whatever.
mm
So if
wait
if they like smacked or whatever, I would be like, okay, let's separate. Everybody,
disperse
calm down. Let's go to the corners. Ding ding, round one done. And and then later on, I
it's
would
not good to
discuss with each
process
one.
emotions in the moment
Right, never make a decision when you're emotional. Um,
which I'm still really bad at, but I've gotten a lot better because I've done a lot of crappy things when I'm emotional.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's like I've literally told my partner before I'm like I can't phone call with you tonight because I'm angry and I know I'm going to take it out on someone and it's most likely going to be the next person I talk to and that might be you. So we're
So let
not
me go
doing
yell
it.
at my mom, and then we.
No. No, usually I just am like, I need to do a bunch of stuff to calm down first. And if I'm still not calming down, then I'll have a conversation with someone. But I want it to be someone who understands on a deeper level. And that's usually you. Where it's like, I'm like, I want someone who knows that the second when I get stressed out, I get angry sometimes and it just happens and it's not directed at that person because it's really hard when you're like just friends with someone or like a partner with someone and you haven't been with them long or like
Yeah,
you don't live together to be like it's not directed at you like you just because some people take it really personally and it's not and
yeah.
then having to be like well it's not your fault and they're like then why'd you yell at me I'm like I don't know
And that's what I work on a lot with parents in my course is the tone,
tone is so
because
hard
I've been pushing back. Like we get, my husband and I will get like, um, we're not great with tone. So they'll, they'll say something and it sounds like they're mad. It sounds like they're judging. It sounds like this. Um, and do I react or not? Like, do I call that out? Do I not? I'm trying to get better with my tone. And when they do something, I don't know what they said last night, but I was like,
who
Dad.
mm.
And I snapped back. And they're like, he's like, well, I'm just saying. I said, yes, but the way you're saying it sounds like you're mad at me or you're judging me for doing this or that I did something wrong. So trying to call out,
Yeah
and Koda calls me out all the time. Like The way you're
It's
talking to me
it's
right now and the way you're standing and everything, I think you're mad at me.
mm-hmm.
And so I have to back off and be like, okay, okay, I'm not getting my point across. And I've said to you, listen, I'm not getting
Yeah.
my point across and I'm getting frustrated and I'm going to leave and I'll come back when I can have a
Yeah.
conversation with you
And that's something
because,
I've tried to like, and it's really great to see that from somebody because now in my current relationship, we've had plenty of conversations where they're like, they'll pull me aside and be like, I feel like you're snapping at me. I feel like you're very like cold and like against me right now. So like, what's going on? And I'm like, either I didn't realize I was doing that and my tone is just weird, or I'm stressed out and it's not you. I'm just frustrated because either I can't get what I want to say out or I'm stressed because of something else and everything is frustrating. And so it's like it's just a constant conversation of being like, I'm sorry, I'm bad at tone, basically.
yeah.
Um,
And there's only so much you can do. And at a
yeah.
point where, um, I'm not going to call it out all the time because it's not worth it. But there's certain times when it really digs in and makes me feel horrible, and that's when I'm like, did you mean to say it that way? Because this
Yeah.
is how it's coming off to me. And before I rip your head off, let's see if that's what was really happening.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so that's one of the things I think is very important is yeah, being able to building up that relationship with each of your children if you have multiple ones. And I know that it can be hard, but it doesn't always have to be, like an entire day or whatever. Sometimes it's just, I always tell parents the best time is to go in and talk to them at night
Yeah, because then
because
they've
they can
processed
yeah, they
everything
can
and it's
decompress.
like,
And I told my husband all the time, like, you should go in when you say goodnight and just, you know, sit there and ask him how things going
yeah, and
because you learn so much.
and now most of the time now it's me being like, Dad's coming down to say goodnight, and I'm like, hey, I'm gonna talk about this.
Yeah.
Um, or one of the things we do is he comes downstairs to go to the bar, and we'll just chat back and forth. Because I have a little divider, so he'll just be standing at the bar, and I'll be in my bed, and we're just talking.
Yeah.
And then he'll leave, and then I'm like, okay. And
Yeah.
then he'll come down and say goodnight, and sometimes I'll have stuff to say, or I'll be talking to you, and he'll come in and join, and I'll recap what I just said to
Yeah.
you, kind of thing.
Yeah. We have to get on DJ about that because DJ opens the door and we're like, what?
Yeah,
I'm like, hey, I haven't seen you all day. I'd like to talk to you and say, well, I'm just doing nothing.
I mean, they really do nothing sometimes, so it's
Yeah.
like that's
Um,
fine. I do a lot, so I'm like I have a lot to talk about. Um, but also I need time to process that stuff. So usually I'll come home and I'll give a brief debrief and then later I'll be like, "Oh, also this and this and this that I forgot to say before."
mm,
Um,
yeah. And that's another thing that I work with parents on and even just, friends that I know or whatever. Like, I had a friend the other day. Um, this is happening and this, and so we were sitting in the library kind of talking
who?
and huh?
Who?
My friend Vicky, we were
Oh,
talking
yeah.
about the kids and how they were kind of not um not really motivated about their future and
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff and
I feel like
that's
at least
great,
every kid goes through that
right?
though.
But I started to say, well, I had this conversation with DJ and I was talking blah blah blah, and they were like, how do you do that? And I was like, what? And they said, talk like that. And that's a hard thing, which is some of the things that
Practice. You
I
just gotta
help
keep trying.
parents with because I'm like, they're telling me something. I'm like, okay, well, maybe we should try it this way.
Hmm.
Like I have a client right now, and um, their kid was just pushing back because they would go in and they're nervous, their kid's older, and they're showing no like signs that they want to do anything with their life, and
Hmm.
all these fears and everything. So every time mom would go in, they'd like bombard.
Yeah.
or whatever. And
And
so,
that's really why I get overwhelmed, is that my dad's a very like questioning person. So
oh,
sometimes I'll walk in the house and
so
I'm
many
just like,
questions.
"How was your day? What's this? Blah, blah, blah."
And you're
I'm
like,
like,
I can't handle
I just
it.
got home. So I usually just sit in my car for a minute and I'm like, here's what I'm gonna say. And then if I want to elaborate further later, I'll do that.
Yeah, yeah. So I was saying, so they we were signing off, and I said, listen, this is what you're going to do. You are going to go in. Oh, because they were studying for like they're in England, so they were studying for these tests that they're supposed
Yeah, I
to
think
do.
I know what you mean.
Right. So to determine if they're going to go on here or whatever. And her son wasn't really studying or whatever. And I was like, okay, well, if you continue to harp on him and try to push him, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Okay. So at this point, um, the only thing you can do is offer suggestions to help
Mm-hmm.
or let the consequence happen, which means maybe failing. So I said, you're just going to get off here and you're going to go into the room and you're just going to say, hey, just saying goodnight and nothing else. You're not going to ask any questions. You're not going to. Same with their daughter, too. Her daughter was like the whole messy and had the doom piles everywhere. And I
I get that
explained why
way.
that might be happening. And I said, when you go to say goodnight to your daughter, you say nothing about the room.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what you're going to do this week is just say nothing about that. You're not going to hound your son about the tests, and you're not going to hound your kid
About the
about the
mess.
room. And
And eventually they'll either come to you for help
right,
or you can gently be like, do you want help?
right,
Because, like today, I'm cleaning my room because I've been struggling so much mentally, and when I get like that, my room gets messy. Um, and it's not super bad lately. Like, it's definitely gotten to a point where I can kind of keep it cleaner than it would have been when I'm like this
mm-hmm.
because I've worked at it for so long, being like, even though I'm stressed and upset, I still need to put this away or
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah,
And so even just putting away like two things makes my room a little easier to manage when I get out of that stress and
yeah.
have to clean it up. Um the thing I've been struggling with was I have my bathroom, I have my room, and then I have my little office room. So I technically have three or four rooms
When you see
for
it, yeah.
I had to check. I have like four rooms that I gotta like keep track of, and that's a lot for me because it's like I have to break each one down into like so many micro tasks to do. Um and so I've just been doing that all day and I'm not done yet. Like I'm getting there. So I'll probably do that after this.
Well,
But
eat first.
well yeah,
You gotta
obviously.
eat.
But I've been eating all day. I don't know why.
No,
I don't
I
know.
haven't, and I'm starving. So
I feel like I've been eating so much today and I think it might either be stress or I just because I didn't get to take my HD meds, which might be the second option. But mom came down when I was cleaning the bathroom and asked me if I needed any help, and I was like no, because I'm like in this like flow of cleaning it up. But it's like having that option, or like my partner sometimes I'll be like they'll be home before me, and I'll be like oh like mentioned how I need my room to be cleaned or like I need my bed to be made, and they'll just do it. Um,
yeah,
so it's just nice to have support for that, but your kid needs to build up that support with you first
yeah,
before because if you're like, well, do you want me to just clean it for you? And then they'll feel like they have to keep it clean or else you'll get mad or something,
yeah.
or they'll feel like you're cleaning it because you pity them or something and they don't want that.
So I'm a firm believer that kids should have their space to be able to do things, and
Mm-hmm.
the thing there are rules around it. Like
Yeah.
not leaving rotting things and
Oh yeah.
dishes and all that kind of stuff. But I don't, for the most part, get mad at that. Like I will just say, listen, I am loading the
Yeah,
dishwasher.
you do dish checks. I was
Yeah,
gonna
I'm like,
say, mom's like, if you have any dishes, bring them now.
yeah. Or
But
if I go, I'm like, I know we have this many bowls, and there's only one in the dishwasher, so round them up because we need bowls.
one of my things though is like for me, I got mold in a cup one time and now I've never let it get to that point ever again.
that's what I don't, because you are the biggest germaphobe, and to leave, but like,
But that's why I don't do it often anymore.
yeah,
Because I had it happen to me once while I was depressed, and then I was like, that's disgusting, and I never want to rinse that out again, so I'm not doing that.
I think I'm going to start making Dante rinse out the milk glasses.
I
They make
can't.
like
I hate
17
milk.
different glasses
I
for
hate
milk.
drinking just straight milk. I'll do it with
And they'll
cookies, but I dump it out
no, but I'm
instantly
saying that
after.
leave it, and then I go to it's now gone sour, and I go to rinse it out, and I'm like,
Yeah, I
so
can't do that.
that may be the
But now I'm like, I'll have like you saw downstairs. I had like two or three glasses, and it's usually because it's nighttime, and I bring them up the next day. Like it's not
well.
like,
Also, that was you had one glass and the two mugs because I made you and Casey
yep,
cocoa, and you had that night. So,
yeah. It's
but
like,
so
but that's what I
that was
mean.
like
Is like,
nothing.
I usually don't because most of the stuff is like I have my water bottle that I constantly refill, or I have drinks that I can throw away. Because I just don't like using glasses all that much, and usually what I drink is water or sparkling water.
Yeah.
So it's like I don't really drink anything else, and sometimes I'll have tea, and I'll usually the max I'll let that like I'll forget it's in there, and I'll think it's just an empty cup,
Mhm.
and then it's like after maybe like a day or max two, I'll be like, okay, I this has tea in it. I need
Yeah.
to bring this
Yeah.
upstairs and rinse it out. So the most is like the milk rises to the top and does that little thing, and then I just am like, okay, and I dump it out. But it's not ever gotten to a gross point, you
Yeah.
know?
Um, and I do want to mention too that if you are doing these things, and things don't seem to be really changing, and you've got to give it some time, but there is something called ODD, and oppositional defiance disorder, and so they're just wired. Also, PDA. So it's important to know the full diagnosis. So like
Mm-hmm.
if this your kid is still being combative,
Doesn't one of the kids down the street have PDA?
yeah. Um, to make sure, because if they
What does
have this,
PDA stand for? Because I all I
um,
can think of is like what PDA actually means. You know what I mean? Not like the
pathological defiance disorder. Yeah, I think that's it. But they're basically the nervous system is constantly in fight or flight, and so even the slightest demand makes them shut down, and
not want to do it.
they'll even if it's something good for them or anything, they will put their foot down, and you cannot get them to do anything. So those type of things need a little bit different.
I have the issue where it's like if I'm about to do something and someone's like, "You should do this," it pisses me off to the point
So
where I don't want to do it.
that's an ADHD trait, and I
Um,
don't know what it's really called, but it's like demand avoidance is
yeah,
something, and
but
so
it's
you're
like
doing great, and like I'm doing great until somebody says something, or if you have a project, I will come over and paint your whole entire house, but I will not do my dishes. I will
right.
go and do. I went to my friend's house and I ripped up their carpet and helped them destroy this room rather than coming home and doing the stuff I had to do.
I do that
Like,
a lot.
yeah. So,
I'll
yeah,
sit
there's a
after
lot of avoidance.
I'll sit after class for like an hour or two because I just don't want to go home and like do homework or something. Um, but it's like my
Yeah.
thing is like one of my least favorite things ever is when I'm actively like cleaning my room and I sit down for a minute to like
Never sit down.
no to like throw something out. I'm like sitting on my bed and I'm like throwing stuff out. Someone comes in and they're like, "Man, your room's a mess. You should clean it." I'm like, "Well, now I'm not gonna do it anymore. Screw
You
you."
just screwed that up.
Because that makes me feel like what I'm doing doesn't show that I'm actually doing that.
Hmm.
And then I'm like, "Well, frick all you. I'm not doing it anymore. You suck." or it's like
Yeah.
or it's like I'll be doing something in class where it's like I'll be doing it the way I do, and they're like, "You should really do it this way." I'm like, "No, I'm just not gonna do it at all." Like, screw you. Like, I hate when people are like, "Well, this way is actually easier." No, I'm never doing that way ever again now. Never. I'm only doing it the more
I'm going to
complicated
do
way.
it
I
the
don't
other
care.
way. That's going to take me 4 hours longer
Just
just
because you said that.
because.
Especially if it's somebody I don't like. Like, if it's somebody I don't like
No,
and they mention
I'm not
anything,
taking your idea. No.
if they say anything, I'm like, no, that idea is now gone forever. I'm never
Even
taking
if
that
it would
advice.
lead to $1 million,
Right?
I'm not doing it.
No, especially because it's like, I just don't like you as a person. And
So
then you're
I'm
going to
not
tell
going to
me
do
how to.
your suggestion.
And especially if they're like, well, this is how I do it. I don't like you, so I'm not doing anything you do.
Yes. And so I will say that when I'm talking to you guys, like even like with school and stuff, this is the way they're showing you how to do it. And
So
does it
fucking
make
dumb.
sense? And
90% of the time it's
that,
no, because
okay,
what the
can
hell?
I do it a different way. So if you'd like to see that, then I would perfectly happy to show you that, but I don't want to confuse you. So if this is working for you,
One of my
that's fine.
favorite things that my current teacher does is that he gives us pretty much every way you could possibly do something if it's an option. Like, he'll tell us what he'll do for, especially for this one. He's like, okay, I want you to make these trees a brighter green. Now do it. And then we'll all do it. And he's like, okay, so how did you do it? And someone will tell them, and he's like, okay. And then how does someone else do it? And then if theirs is different, he's like, okay, well, or if it's the same, he'll be like, well, okay, who did it differently? And then he'll explain to us that there's not like a correct way to do it. As long as you do it, it works.
Right. If you
But there's
get
a
to the
more efficient way sometimes.
right.
And he'll show us the way he would do it that's more efficient. And he's like, but if this works for you, do it that way.
Right. And sometimes you have to because that's the way your brain's going to do it. Whereas like DJ was doing I think they were doing like uh oh, algebraic equations and stuff. Yeah, it's tanking. And the tutor was like doing da 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 da, and they were like, "Well, I need you to do this." And Dante's like, "Why? Why can't I just? Why do I have to write these extra stuff? Why can't I just go right down here and give you the answer?" And when we were doing it, I said, "I don't care. If you know how to do it, and you don't need that step and you're getting the answer right, then I'm not going to force you to
As
do
long as
that."
you get it right,
Right.
it doesn't matter. Like if my teacher said turn the trees green and you turn them freaking bright pink, then clearly there's a step that you're
Yeah.
doing wrong that needs to be done a different way.
Yeah. It's just that, oh, show your work.
I
All
hate
right.
showing your work. Most of the time I think the thing that pisses me off about show your work is that 90% of the time I'm already gonna show my work because that's how I do it. But then it asks me to show my work and I'm like, well now I really just don't want to because you're just gonna be like,
You're asking me to do more work than I really need to do.
right? Because then sometimes I'm like, I show my work and they're like, well, you didn't show this part.
Mm.
Maybe it's because I didn't do that part.
But I got the answer right.
Also, sometimes I'm like, what if I just wanted to cheat, right? Like now I can't do that because you're forcing me to show my work.
Well,
Stupid.
then no. Yeah.
Stupid.
So
But also, that's the problem is I had a lot of kids in my math class that were more advanced with that stuff, and they just did it in their head, and they would write down the answers. They're like, "Well, you didn't show your work." He's like, "Well, I did it in my head."
here.
Like, yeah, okay.
Oh gosh. All right. Do you think we covered this topic?
I don't
Hopefully
know.
you can go through this and if you're watching on replay and pick out the pieces that actually make sense.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we pretty much, I mean, we got the main things.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about building the relationship, knowing about ADHD and its quirks, and being able to not control and collaborate, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Sound good?
What does that mean?
So that's why it's like play before punishment. Right? But what they're saying is
That's kind of like the disperse and calm down kind of, but a different step.
no, but spending quality time
Oh
so
yeah.
that you have the bond, so that when you have to,
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to be always the bad
Yeah.
person. You
Yeah.
know that mom loves me and we do fun things and whatever. And now, so now I can talk to you in a different way without yelling and whatever, because we now have more of a emotional connection as opposed to, like every single freaking movie is about a angry teen and their parents have no freaking idea who their kid is or anything, what their wants and their hopes and their dreams are. They have their version, and that's how they're gonna put that on the kid, and every kid fights back. You don't even know me. You don't even care. This is your dream, not mine. You know, every movie,
Yeah.
especially the ones where they have to like
Or they're
flip
like,
bodies.
they're like, I have a really bad parent, and then the parent's like, no. Or it's like, my kid's so bad, and then the kid is just some neurodivergent coded child, and it's like, well,
Yeah,
they're
no,
not.
they're not. You just don't understand them. Yeah. So that's what that one is.
Hmm.
We good? All right.
Yeah, I'm
Coda's.
hungry,
We're
and
hungry, and Coda's not. So we're gonna go make dinner, and we will see you
I
next
hope this
month.
helped, and we didn't just yap the whole time. I think we stayed pretty on topic.
I think we did.
We did really good this time.
Woo! All right. We'll see you next month. Peace out.
Bye.
Hey, thanks for hanging out with us. If this video made you feel seen or at least made you laugh a little, go ahead and like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you don't miss out on what's next. And if you're ready to ditch the power struggles and help your ADHD kid grow into an awesome, independent person, then grab my free masterclass. QR code is right there on the screen, or you can hit the link in my profile. All right, guys, go out and be amazing, and we'll catch you in the chaos.